Hey everyone, and welcome back to Daily Tuition. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can make 3 different modes for your landing page. You can notice we have morning, evening and night mode for this website. Using this tutorial, you will be able to add your own different modes to your website. So let's get started and see how you can blend your image with the different website modes. So I'm going to first open the Visual Studio Code editor, and inside this, I'm going to open my tutorial folder. Inside this, I'm going to have here asset folder, and inside that asset folder, I'm going to have image1.jpg file. That's upon you, you can use any image for this tutorial. I'm using this image. Don't worry, you can download this image from the link provided in the description. Now, let's create first the HTML file. So inside this tutorial, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name this file index.html. You can name this file anything, that's upon you. And inside this tutorial, again, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name it style.css. If you want, you can add styling inside the index.html as well. That's upon you. Just out of that, here inside this index.html, I'm going to press exclamation mark and press enter. This will create a simple HTML5 snippet. Just out of that, here I'm going to specify title. Title is going to be modes. And just after that, I'm going to add here link tag with style.css. I'm going to link my style.css to this HTML. Just out of that, I'm going to create a new file here. I'm going to name it main.js. So this is my main JavaScript file. I'm going to first link that just before this closing body. Here I'm going to add a script tag, and I'm going to pass here main.js. This will just link my main file to this index.html. And here I'm going to simply create h1 heading tag and say modes. Let me open this HTML file on my browser. So I'm going to right click here and say open with live server. I'm using live server extension to open the HTML file in the browser. This will create a server and open my index.html file there. Now, whenever I make any changes inside my HTML and save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have the live result on my browser. Now, let me put this window on the right side. Just out of that, right here, instead of this h1 heading tag, here I'm going to simply create a division tag with the class container like this. And to this container, I'm going to pass padding x 0. Now this is a Bootstrap class. So we need to first import Bootstrap as well before this style.css. I'm using Bootstrap to save some time. So I'm going to open a new tab, and here I'm going to search for Bootstrap. I'm going to open the getbootstrap.com website and click on the get started. Copy this CDN and paste it right up here before this style.css, just like this. Let me save the changes, and here I'm going to create h1 heading tag and say morning. Now, if we specify here background color bg dark, then you can notice I'm going to have some space. I want to remove this space. So instead of container, I'm going to use here container fluid. Let me remove this bg dark class right from here. Inside this container fluid, I'm going to create here container class, and inside this, I'm going to put this heading like this. Just out of that, here I'm going to specify my buttons. So I'm going to create a div with the class buttons, and inside this, I'm going to add my different buttons. So this is my first button with morning text. Then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to specify text here evening, and this became night. Just out of that, I'm going to specify some IDs to this button so we can identify it and get access to this button inside the main.js. So here I'm going to add ID is equal to, and I'm going to specify here morning. Then I'm going to add here ID again, and this became evening, and this ID became night. Just out of that, let me save the changes. And at the end, just after this div, after this container, right down here, I'm going to add canvas. Now we are using this canvas tag to add image to this background. Now because we are using GraalIm.js library, we are using this canvas tag. So to this canvas, I'm going to specify ID, canvas, image, blending. That's it. Let me save the changes and open a new tab here, and I'm going to search for GraalIm.js. using this library, we're going to add interactive gradient colors to the website. So let me just click on these examples. Here you can notice we have different examples of this library. We are using this third example, the gradient animation with image and blending mode. We are blending the gradient with the image. We're going to first link this Granim.js library to the website. So here I'm going to search for Granim.js CDN. I'm going to choose this first website, cdnjs.com. Copy this script tag and paste it before this main.js. Just like this. Save this file back to my main.js. So what we need to do is we need to create a new object of Granim, and inside that we're going to pass different properties. Let me explain all these properties one by one. So let me just back to my website, and here I'm going to first create a new object of Granim. Create instance. So here I'm going to simply create a variable, let Granim instance is equal to, and then I'm going to call here new Granim. Now if you want, you can download this Granim library and link that with your project as well. I'm using the CDN method. There are 3 different methods you can use to link libraries with your project, using Node Package Manager, using CDNs, or by manually downloading the library and link that with your project. I'm using the CDN method here. So I'm going to first create the new instance of this Granim library. So I'm going to say here new Granim, and inside this parenthesis I'm going to pass different parameters. So I'm going to pass here an object like this, and here I'm going to add different properties. So I'm going to say here element. Using this element, you specify where you want to add your image. So inside this index.html, here you can notice we have this canvas tag. Granim use canvas tag to add image inside your project. So we use here canvas and we pass here an ID. We are going to pass this ID to this element. So Granim will get this canvas and work with it. So once we pass that, I'm going to pass here comma and pass the second property, which is going to be direction. Then we specify the direction of the gradient color. I want my gradient color from top to bottom. If you want, you can add your gradient from bottom to top as well. Just out of that, we can access another property called is paused when not in view. So you can just call here is paused when not in view. This is going to be true. When your website is not in view, I wanted to stop the gradient animation. Just out of that, I'm going to specify here my image. So I'm going to pass here image and then pass here colon. And in the object, I'm going to pass different properties to my image. The first property is source. We need to pass source of the image. So as you know, we have the image inside this asset folder. And the name of the image is img1.jpg. So let me pass that asset folder relative path here. So I'm going to say here dot / I'm going to pass here asset folder and the name of my image, image.jpg. Just like this. Just out of that, I'm going to specify here blending mode. Now this is going to specify what type of blending mode you want to use. There are different blending mode you can use here. It may be multiply, it may be color, saturation, and so on. You can find more about these values on Granim API. Just for now, I'm using here multiply. Just out of that, here I'm going to pass comma and specify stretch mode. Then I'm going to pass here an array, and inside that I'm going to pass here 2 modes, stretch and stretch if bigger. Now if the image is smaller than the background size, Granim is going to pass this second value. Otherwise, it will specify this first value. Just out of that, just after this image, right down here, we have another property called states. Now you can pass different state to the gradient colors. Let's first create the default state. So in the double quote, we are going to say here default state. Then we pass here colon and pass an object. Inside this, we need to pass the gradient color. So we first pass here property, gradients, and pass an array. Inside this array, we have another array of gradient color. As you know, in gradient, we need 2 colors. So let me just pass here an array of hex color. Let me save the changes. Oops, I think something went wrong. Canvas image blending could not be found in DOM. Yes, right here. We need to pass here hash because this is a type of ID. Oops, I misspelled this spelling. Bottom. Save the changes. As you can see, I'm going to have my image here. Now when I save the changes, you can notice I'm going to have this image here. Just out of that, we need to pass the transition speed to the gradient animation, as well as I'm going to pass loop property. So just out of this array, right down here, I'm going to pass a property called transition speed. And this is going to be 4000 millisecond, means 4 seconds. Just out of that, I'm going to pass here loop true. For now, I'm going to put this loop true. Later, we're going to make this property false. When I save the changes, you will not get anything here because we have the same color to this morning state. If you add another array here with different color, if I add another array with a different hex color, then you can notice whenever I save the changes, you can see ground name is automatically blend the image with the gradient. You can see the result here. If I add another array here inside these gradients like this, when I save the changes, you can notice we have 3 different gradients to this image. Right? Now what I want to add these different states when I click on these buttons. Let me first add some styling to this page. So inside the style.css, I'm going to first select the container, select the h1 heading tag, and then I'm going to specify text align, center, padding top is going to be 3 em. Then I'm going to pass here font size is going to be 70 pixel. Let me save these changes. As you can see, I'm going to have these CSS properties to this h1 heading tag. Just out of that, just out of this h1, right down here, I'm going to select the container. Then I'm going to select my buttons. You can see inside my index.html, I have this buttons class. To these buttons, I'm going to simply add. So I'm going to select all my buttons, and then I'm going to specify background color, which is white smoke. Then border is going to be none. Padding is going to be 0.8 em to the top and bottom, and 2 em to the left and right. Just out of that, I'm going to specify margin. Margin is going to be 2 em to the top and bottom, and 1 em to the left and right. Then I'm going to add here border radius. Border radius is going to be 0.2 em, just like this. Just out of that, I want to center these buttons. So in my index.html, here I'm going to add deflex, the Bootstrap class, and add justify content center. That's it. At the end, inside the style.css, here I'm going to select my canvas. So I'm going to copy this ID, pass that here with hash like this, and then I'm going to specify position, absolute. Display is going to be block, width is going to be 100%, and height is also going to be 100%. Then I'm going to specify top, which is going to be 0, right is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, and bottom is going to be 0. Save this file. As you can see, I'm going to have my image. Let me specify z index. Z index is going to be minus 999, just like this. Now what I want, when I click on these buttons, I want to change the image blending. So I'm going to back to my main.js, and instead of this array, I'm going to create 3 different states inside this state property. Now you can notice here, this is the first state. This is the default state. We can create multiple states inside this object. So I'm going to copy this state and paste it just down here. Don't forget to pass here comma to create a new state. And instead of default state, I'm going to specify here evening. evening state. Then I'm going to pass this second array to this evening state like this. And instead of true, here I'm going to pass false because I wanted to change this theme when I click on these buttons. So I'm going to pass here false. Just out of that, I'm going to copy this second state and paste that just down here. And then I'm going to change this evening to dark. Then I'm going to specify here comment and enable the last array. Let me save the changes. And now you have 3 different states to your gradients. Now what I want, when I click on the morning, I want to execute this default state. When I click on this evening, I want to execute this evening state. And when I click on the night, I want to execute this night state. So to do that, just down here, I'm going to add on-click event on these buttons. So let me first select all these buttons. So just down here, I'm going to simply say constant morning is equal to document.getElement by ID. And inside this, here I'm going to pass morning. Let me duplicate this. I'm going to select the second button, which is evening, and third button, which is night. Let me change the variables as well, evening and night. Just down here, I'm going to add on-click event. So on-click morning. So just down here, I'm going to say morning dot add event listener. I'm going to add click event. So I'm going to pass here event click and pass here a callback function. So when we click on this button, I'm going to call this callback function, just like this. When I click on the morning, I want to execute this callback function. Inside this function, I'm going to simply call the instance of this granim. So here I have this granim instance. I'm going to use that here and say granim instance. And then I'm going to call here a method of it, which is change state. And inside that, I'm going to pass the state name. When I click on the morning, I want to change the state and specify this default state. So I'm going to pass here default state, just like this. Let me copy this, paste it down here, and this is for evening, right? When I click on the evening button, this one, I'm going to call this function and call the evening state. Let me copy this, paste it down here, and this time I'm going to call the night on click event. So I'm going to say here night, and this is going to be the dark mode. Let me save the changes. Now when I click on the morning, you can see the gradient animation is called the morning mode. This is the default mode for this website. When I click on the evening, it's going to change to the evening mode. And when I click on the night, it's going to change to the night mode. Now what I want, along with these buttons, I want to change this text as well. Here I'm going to add another constant variable, which is going to be heading is equal to, and then I'm going to pass here document dot query selector. And inside that, I'm going to pass dot container h1. h1 is the heading tag, right? I'm going to select this selector, and then inside this heading here, I'm going to say heading dot inner HTML is equal to, then I'm going to pass here morning. Copy this statement, paste that here and here. This became evening and this became night. Let me pass color to this h1. Here I'm going to pass class text white. Save the changes, back to the website, and now you can notice when I click on the morning, it's going to open the morning mode. When I click on the evening, it's going to change this text as well along with the mode. And when I click on the night, I'm going to have the night mode. Now you're not limited to only use these buttons to change the mode of your website. You can use your current time as well. I hope you understand how you can add this beautiful blending effect. If you find anything useful, don't forget to press the like button. Share this video with your friends. That is all for now. I will see you in the next one.